If you have a Spark, Sun SPARC machine, something of the Spark 10, Spark 20 vintage variety, you're probably going to run into the same problem that I have. The NVRAM chip, the PROM chip on the board, and the battery that backs it up. Sun, in their infinite wisdom back then, decided that they would embed the battery inside the epoxy of the chip. Although maybe it's not Sun, maybe that was just the part that they bought. It looks like they were all manufactured back then. So you can see this is that's the one that's on the board. In my case, it has this sort of yellow. But inevitably, the battery goes bad, and you got to figure out how to deal with that. It manifests on the machine as you see here, where it says something in the banner: the ID PROM contents are invalid. The Ethernet address, the first three octets aren't the ones that they're supposed to be, Sun. And the host ID, the host type, that 7B, isn't the architecture for the machine, and it just won't boot. No matter what you do, you put the installer CD in or other things, and it just it kernel panics and dies out. So you got to figure out how to deal with it. There's a few ways to do this. Seems one of the common ways nowadays is to hack open the battery here, as you can see, and basically wire on a new CR2032 battery. You can see some of these pictures here. It works. You can keep the same PROM that way. Other option, if you go hit eBay, the prices are getting ridiculous on some of these chips. You can buy a replacement chip, and I've seen them on here like $180, $150, but the average price seems to be about $80 for some of these chips. There's a document floating around back from the late 90s, and I think there's one from about 2000, the latest one, that goes through and describes what the hardware is. You can see there, that's the chip that's in there, where the chips are on the board, and you can see the original part numbers down here. In my case, this is a Sun 4M architecture, so it had the M48T18 chip in it originally, and at the time of the writing of this article, the M48T18 was still available through sources in the US. Well, that was what, 27 years ago, 26 years ago, and guess what? They're no longer available. So you can find them on eBay here and there. The M48, let's find the T18. You can find them. So here's a 5-piece set ST. I think they'll work. I actually ordered some to try out, but it's what, $50 for 5. And I don't know if they'll work. We'll see. So here's the other thing, and I was wondering, has anybody made sort of a modern replacement? Because at some point, these are just going to go away, or the price is going to get so ridiculous that it's not going to be worth it anymore. And if you go through this article here, it mentions the M48T stuff was originally a different chip number from another manufacturer. Mostec was the 48, and then they changed the number, and it used to be something else. But originally, it was the DS1643. So I went digging around and see, is there a DS1643 modern replacement? Well, it turns out there is, and here it is. This person has them on eBay. Now, granted, it's not inexpensive. I would love to see this to be lower cost. I don't think it's worth, $83 with shipping and tax. But if it works, it is definitely or possibly a viable modern alternative. So I ordered one. By the way, I accidentally ordered the wrong one and got it in. And that's what I'm going to go over here and kind of show what it looks like. So as I said, I incorrectly ordered a DS1642, which is like a 24-pin version. That's this one. We'll just kind of get rid of that and put it out of the way. And here is the replacement. This is supposedly an exact functional replacement, DS1643, which should be the M48T18 type from Mostec. It looks like it's well made. I'm not sure, what it's actually using on here for NVRAM, but here's what it looks like. You can see it. You know, let me turn the light on here. Well made, machined socket pins. Came with a socket, an extra socket. I don't think I'll need that. The motherboard socketed, but you know, I'll put the Sun box up here on the bench and kind of show you where it is and when it goes, and we'll see how it works, and we'll have to reprogram it. But hopefully this is a suitable modern drop-in replacement for these old Sun boxes. We shall see. And away we go. Here is the SPARC box. I pulled it out and got the camera set up. You can see that chip in there that has that yellow on it. Let's zoom in. See if we can see that. Yeah, there it is. So right there, that chip with the yellow on top, that is the PROM chip that we are going to replace. So how are we going to do it? It's actually pretty easy. It popped out pretty much on its own, but if you got one of these chip pullers, it does make it easier. It is definitely in there really good. So let's pop that out. Come on. Get it kind of light. There we go. And there's the chip. The chip itself kind of comes out of that socket part. But we'll leave that all together there like that. There's the old PROM. And here is the modern day replacement. I suppose you could put that socket in there, but there's already a socket. Why bother? Pin 1, if we look at here, pin 1 is that side up there. This is marked pin 1 here. Let's pop that in. And there is that chip. I'll do a zoom in so you can see what it looks like. Zoom. There it is. And that's what it looks like put in there. We'll go zoom back out. It's installed, and I will take the machine back over to its resting spot, connect it to the terminal, and we'll go from there. All right, it's plugged back in. I will power it on so you can see what happens on the boot screen. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. And there we go. I must not have gotten the chip in there all the way completely seated. It didn't boot the first time. But now it is. So if you've ever seen a SPARC box boot up, this is kind of what it looks like. We'll let it go through its checks. Maybe I'll fast forward through here. We'll see how long it takes. You know, in the meantime, though, I can pull up this dock. And here are the commands we're going to have to put in on the Open Boot PROM. It's the MKP command that programs the PROM chip. If you look on this dock, here are the bytes. You know, it's 16, well, it's 15 bytes. I have pre-made it out. There's an example in here too. Right down here. This is where I got it from. So if you're installing a new NVRAM, type set defaults first. So we are going to go over here. Is it, nope, not quite ready yet. And then set ENV diag switch. All right, so let's send a break signal. All righty. Set dash defaults. So let's go. Actually, let's do this first. Check the banner. So that's interesting. We've got all zeros for the Ethernet address and host ID. Completely empty. So let's try set dash defaults. Okay. And then set ENV diag switch false as well. Set ENV diag false. Let's look at our set env. Oh no, print env. All right. I think we're back to defaults. So let's go over here and look at those commands. One of them is the date time. It's supposed to be a manufacturer. It says to use 000. So what I did was, one of the things in here is the machine type, byte 1, first byte of host ID machine type. In my case, it is 72. That is listed in here somewhere. I want to say it's up front. Somewhere in here is the type listed. So if you got like an IPC or an IPX or an Ultra, other machines, following table matches some models. So I've got 72 SPARC Station 10 or 20, right? Ethernet address. So you can set it. 080020 is what it should actually be in the first 3 octets. That's Sun's OID. As you saw, it's zeros right now. Data manufacturer. And then you can just put in whatever you want the host ID to be, and then checksum is sort of calculated at the end automatically. So I set my host ID to be DEADEE. Well, let's take this, copy, paste it in. Did it work? Make sure once. Yep, there it is. Okay, step 3. I am not on that. Type reset at the OK prompt. Click. And it is resetting now. Let's see what happens. And note, our Ethernet address is 080020 and then the DEADEE. And note that now my kernel is booting. I have Solaris, what is it? Solaris 251, which is Sun OS 551 installed on this drive. But note, it just went right into boot. So it works. Now what I'll do is I will power down the machine, let it sit overnight, and we'll see if it holds battery, because it wasn't holding before. And if it does, then tomorrow I'll finish up this video, edit it up, post it. But all signs are good that this DS1643 PROM chip actually works and sits in here and holds. More to come tomorrow. All right, we are back the next morning. I unplugged the machine last night. I don't know if the SPARC machines, if the power cable in continues to power the time of day and VRAM, so I just unplugged it. So we'll plug it back in today. There it is, and turn it on. And let's see what the clock looks like in the NVRAM settings. There we go. Power on self-test is running. Oh, we got a boot. Wow. Let's hit a break. Answer that question, it just booted right up. So the easiest way to find out if it's working is hit banner, and heck yeah, it's holding. So I'm gonna call this a win. That little board works. It's not cheap. I would love to see a lower cost version. It's $65 is a bit extreme. I would think 25 could be fair. But, you know, I guess they got to make money somehow, right? One thing, I'm pretty sure that auto boot is enabled. Yeah. So I'm going to say set env auto boot false. I don't want to automatically boot the OS every time. Let's say boot disk. Resetting, and away we go. So it should start coming up. There you go. There's an option for the DS1643, the NVRAM replacement chip for the Sun SPARC machine. That's about it. Take care. See ya.